All right, it's JPEG to Raw, show number 169, recorded on March 29th, 2016. Tonight we have a guest I've been wanting to talk to for a long time, and we finally have hooked up and got her on the show tonight. Corey, welcome to JPEG to Raw.
Hi.
I've been so excited to talk to you for a long time. I'm glad we got you on the show. We were able to work out a schedule. And before we get into the main topic, your site, Photo Stealers, tell us a little bit about you and your photography, because what some people, probably a lot of people know this, but some may not. You are a photographer yourself. You run your own business, a photography business. Tell me a little bit about how you got into photography and about your business.
Basically, I've been taking, it's the trite story, but I've been taking pictures my whole life. My father was a photographer. He didn't do it professionally, but he did minor in it in college. So unfortunately, he passed away from cancer, and I had quit my job, which was in medical billing at the time for Medicare, to take care of him while he was dying. And he kind of, you have those talks, and he was like, do you really want to do this for the rest of your life? And I was like, no, because Medicare billing is pretty boring. Not my life's work. So anyways, he was just like, well, you're kind of good with camera. You should try something with that maybe. So long story short, I decided to give it a whirl. And about a year later, I started doing weddings, and this will be going into my 9th season of doing weddings this year.
Wow. Wedding is to me, such a pressure business. I could never, I've told Tim, I've said this on the show many times, I just could never do that. I could never handle the pressure. But, I'm showing some of the photos now of some of the weddings you've shot. We did talk beforehand about getting some of these. So all these are available on your website, and I am streaming them, of course, in our low resolution. To see the better images, go to Corey's website. But so you've been doing this, you said, for 9 years now?
Yes.
And you mentioned, and I have one of these up here somewhere, you did a destination wedding. So you don't all do them local. You actually do some destination weddings too, right?
Yes, about once a year or so. I do one destination session or wedding. I've done a couple engagement sessions, but mostly weddings out of the state. I
saw one of them. It looked like you were in St. Thomas, maybe?
Yeah, that was in December.
So I've been there once on a cruise, passing by. It was just one of our stops. Love that town. That was a great town. I guess that's a country or whatever it is.
Well, it's United States, but it's their own island, and then the town's Charlotte Amalie.
You know what I loved? You had gorgeous photos, of course, but one of my favorites was something you wouldn't figure, Tim, and Corey. You probably would not figure this was one of my favorites. You took one of the iguanas.
Yes.
A photo of an iguana. And they were, when we got off, I remember seeing them all over the place. So when you get off the ship, they were like everywhere. And, I don't see those in Atlanta like that. And I was just, I took a lot of pictures of them too, because I thought this is unusual. I don't see a lot of iguanas. And that's one of the ones that stuck out to me, your iguana photo.
Yeah, the iguanas and the chickens were everywhere. So that was, I'm the same. They're not in Ohio, at least not in the wild running around outside. So
I don't remember the chickens. Maybe I don't remember.
Well, we stayed there, so we had a little bit more time. But yeah, we were eating lunch one day, and there was a chicken with her chicks like under our table, and we were like, both of us were quite glad we didn't order chicken for lunch. It would have been a little awkward.
Yeah, that would be. So that is awesome to be able to travel with clients and be able to do destination weddings like that. Have you gone to a lot of different places with that?
I had another wedding in Cozumel. I second shot with a friend of mine, Ann Ruthman, in Punta Cana. I've done a wedding in Jamaica, and then I do a lot of I've had 2 in Connecticut, and I just did one in Massachusetts this past January. I keep thinking it's February. And, just kind of everywhere. When we were at WPPI, a friend of mine got married in front of the Bellagio fountain, so I took pictures for her.
Oh, that's cool.
I guess the good news is that people who are going to have a destination wedding are not going to go to someplace crappy. They're going to go to a nice place.
Yeah.
No one's going to go to Detroit or as a destination wedding or Rome, Georgia.
Well, you never know. I had a wedding here in Ohio where it was a group of people from Alaska that came to Ohio to get married. So, because they could rent out the resort. And they had no ties to Ohio. I'm still not quite sure how Ohio came into it, but
I guess you never know. People, I guess wherever they live, they look at another place as, oh, I'd love to go there sometime. You don't know what causes one person to think that over another.
Right.
So who knows what they...
Yeah. I mean, I got married in the Outer Banks, which is about 12 hours from here. So it's not a normal destination wedding location, but it was where I got married. So I get it.
Do you do other photography other than just just weddings? I imagine you do engagements and some of that stuff too.
Right. Right. I do mostly weddings and then engagements, and then I'll do some family pictures and children. I don't do the posy props, backdrops thing. It's more just kind of natural lifestyle. But yeah, it's mostly, most of the family sessions I shoot are with past clients or referrals from clients. So I don't really market that so much as the weddings.
All right. So let's get to the main topic. And that is, so I guess my first question is, what made you decide to start the photo studios?
I've been on Twitter for a very long time, I think since the end of 2007, early 2008. And I don't know even how or why I was chosen, but somebody at one point was like, hey, this picture looks like it could be from somewhere else. And I happened to recognize the photographer. So I messaged them and blah, blah, blah. And it kept happening. And this was before Google had a reverse image search, which makes things a lot easier now. And so I would put out on Twitter, hey, this person's got stolen images. Does anybody recognize? And it would filter down from there. Well, it's kind of hard on a Twitter format to follow it all. So I ended up moving on to Tumblr, just to keep it all in one place. And I really didn't expect it to go anywhere. I just thought it was going to be just my friends who were like trying to keep track of, this photographer did this or this photographer did that. Because then eventually a few months down the line, people are like, what was the photographer that did that stealing? And I'd have to go back through my Twitter feed to try to figure it out. So that's kind of how it started.
How long ago was that?
I think 2009.
Okay. So you like 7 years ago, you've been at, we're 2016, 7 years ago. Wow, time is flying by. So for 7 years you've been doing this. And one of the things I struggle with, I've read a lot of your posts. And what is interesting is the response from the photographer when they're first called out and then how that progresses over time. As my day job, an accountant, and whatever the public thinks of accountants, I don't know. But on average, I think the average accountant is fairly, what's a good term? They're honest. They like the numbers to balance, and they don't like to stretch the truth. And that's one of the things I think holds back this show is I'm not a good marketer of the show. I'm not because I'm not going to, I have trouble going out on the edge and skirting the truth with the marketing. Right. And so when I see what some of these people do, and they're not just taking photos of somebody else's and putting them on there and using them like advertising, they're also like saying, hey, look at Bill. I'm going to make up names now. Look at, my little Billy here. We had a photo session with him today. It's such a cute little boy. And they're making the whole thing up. They didn't, it's not even their photo. Right. And I'm just lost as to how someone can do that and live with themselves and go to sleep at night. I don't understand that. Have you got any, over the years, over 7 years, do you feel you understand these people any better than when you started?
No, but at least now I'm kind of able to sometimes, not all the time, but kind of guess which direction they'll go. If they'll go a little crazy or if they'll kind of just quietly delete. Obviously, like last year's incident, there's going to be times where I don't really know. Yeah. But, I'm starting to be a little bit more cautious when I out people to kind of look and see because a lot of times by the time it's brought to me, they've been confronted at least once by original photographer, if not multiple original photographers saying, hey, take my work down. So normally I've already heard, well, they refused or they ignored my email or sometimes they cussed me out. So at least by those things I'm told, I'm sometimes able to kind of guess how it may go. But then sometimes, it just, who knows? It's never the same story twice, typically. So it's very interesting to me to see how people, there's not a lot they can do to defend themselves, yet they do.
They do. What I have seen, it seems to some of them at least follow this progression. First they blame maybe the web designer or whatever it is, even though there's our intern, even though there's Facebook posts talking about how they had a great shoot with this kid or adult or whatever it is, and then they go down the path of oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know about this or whatever else. And then they get mad at you and lash back. It's interesting you say, though, that the original photographer sometimes has reached out to them and they got mad at that person.
Yes.
And man, it's just if you got caught. Where I was going to go with that is, as I read some of your posts, I see some of their responses coming back to you. And they often claim no one, hey, the original photographer didn't say anything and all this kind of stuff. I have a hard time believing anything they say because I'm starting from the standpoint of you stole images. You know they weren't yours.
Absolutely.
And how am I to believe you now that what you're saying now is complete truth when you're actually denying the fact that you stole the images? It doesn't make any sense. So
you're not starting with an honest point with them.
Right.
So
I discount anything they had to say in their post. That's interesting. Tim, if you haven't read any of these, they're incredible. They're incredible.
I've read previously.
Some more than others.
Yeah. And it's amazing. You're right, because when they get caught, and it's like you're representing it's yours, and you're lying about it, and you're obviously caught. I would probably hang up the phone and take off the picture personally, but that point, I wouldn't. You can't. How are you arguing when it's not yours?
One thing that as soon as I learned about Corey and the website, and I started looking at these things, I had no idea this kind of stuff was going on to this degree, and then it started making me worried about, oh, good God, are we going to someday have a photographer on the show that later we find out that they were doing this? Because I love having people who are more popular on the show, like yourself and some of the other guests we've had, but also love having people who maybe nobody's the average person hasn't heard of, and they're just getting started, and they're talented in whatever way they're talented, and if our show can help them any little bit, I like to do that. So it's not we're not just going to have the most popular people on the show. We're going to have a wide range of people. So it could be somebody who doesn't have a large portfolio or a lot of years behind them, and you never know that someday it might come up. And I just can't do the kind of research you do.
Right. It's, now that I've been doing it quite a few years, I'm usually able to pretty much guess when somebody submits someone. I'm able to kind of scroll through their pictures and know, because you usually see there's like two drastic differences in pictures. It's not like, oh, they took this when they started. It's like, wow, this is a completely different person taking this picture versus another. So, but yeah, it's sometimes harder for the average person to guess on those. So I get it. And it's not something that just new moms or new dads, even with cameras, that are doing to try to get their business started. I mean, as we've seen, other people, one of the first people, and I helped out her on Twitter, but I really didn't post a lot of it on the Tumblr, because at the time I was actually on vacation. There was a girl named Megan who had kind of a little bit of a prominence. She had done some workshops, and I think she may have used images in contests. I can't remember. I think local contests or something, but she had kind of a little bit more of attraction behind her, and she was caught. And, it was this huge thing. And, I think it was Jeremy Cohort came out and did this whole forgiveness thing with her. And then she apparently got caught doing it again. The day she got outed kind of online, she had gone and cashed all of her checks that she had for weddings. And then her clients were backing out, and she was refusing to, give them the money back. It turned into this huge disaster. So it's interesting that it's not just people starting out. And I mean, and as people who've seen my blog also see that I also sometimes out photographers who plagiarize. And, there's been some well-known photographers, unfortunately, who have fallen prey to doing that as well. So it can be anybody.
Well, and I've kind of jumped the gun on some stuff. Can you walk us through how maybe the process starts? Like, how do you become aware of a site? There's so many photographers out there, so many websites and Facebook pages and whatever else there is. I can't imagine you're just scouring the internet looking for people.
No, maybe when I first started out, when I would get bored, I would kind of pop around a little bit, but it never any really went anywhere. Typically, my process is I have like a submission thing online that I guess works like 9% of the time. I don't know. It's going up and down all the time. It's the internet. But I get a submission usually through Facebook or the email, and then I research it and decide not only if they are stealing, if it's been taken down, because often by the time I get to the email, because I do run another full-time business that actually pays me.
Yeah.
If it's been taken down 9 times out of I don't think I ever have outed somebody after everything started, been all taken down. Sometimes like when I start, they're in the process of maybe removing some stuff, but especially in the past year or so, I've really tried to be kind of vigilant about not posting anybody. But so then I take that information and I see, okay, yeah, they've got a majority of images. I also try not to out people that are just advertising with stolen images. I used to more in the past, but anymore, if you go to, my kind of thought is, if you go to their website, are you going to be misinformed as far as their talent? If they're using predominantly other people's work, then I'll proceed, and then I'll research, screen cap, reverse Google search, inform the original photographer, and put the original photographer's link in the picture or in the blog. And then I go through everything. And then once I get to the bottom and get through everything and format everything for the blog and blah, 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 then I post. And then
like this image we have here where I don't know if people can make it out on the video, but you can go to her site and see it. I think I'm just at your main site right now.
Right. StopStealingPhotos.com.
Yeah. And this is just the most recent post. And you can see on one side you have what the photographer has on their page. On the other side, you have the original work.
Yes, the original source.
And I mean, it's no doubt that they are the same image.
Right. Right. And I use Google and often the original photographer to make sure that, the original source is the original source. Although sometimes, I've not been able to get, like, if it's a stock image or, sometimes I'll have to put unknown original source because it's been reblogged or repinned or Style Me Pretty got a hold of it and it went everywhere and, I can't find the original source. So sometimes I'll put unknown original source because I'm pretty sure with that many sources out there that this photographer who's only been out for 6 months didn't take that picture, but I can't for sure say who the original photographer was because often these people are using Google Images. So if you go and you put wedding pictures, those pictures that come up first are pretty prevalent on the internet. So sometimes it's a little tough, or sometimes the photographer's gone out of business since those images have been posted. So,
and we're not talking about somebody who has taken images and are using them on their Facebook page to share with friends, which is still wrong. No. If you're using a photo, I guess it's morally wrong. I don't know what kind of award you can get, but if you're using a photo and claiming it's your own and it's not, that is at least morally wrong, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
If you're using it in a commercial setting, whether it's advertising and you're using an image as advertising that you stole,
it's borderline theft.
Is wrong. I guess, how do you know if somebody didn't buy it from iStock Photo or something like that, where in that case you didn't take the photo and it may be morally wrong that you're using it to claim it's your own work, but legally it's, you could do that.
Well, there's a bunch of, each stock photo site has their own legalities, and most of them have written into the terms of service that you cannot use the images to represent your own work, but you can use them to, I'm kind of putting the layman's terms down, but basically, because I got into a big conversation with this about a gentleman I had outed, Christopher Jones. Not everything he used was stock, but there were some stock images. So I ended up getting a hold of the companies that he had purchased from, and they were, they went over everything with me. But generally, you can use it as your, to say, hey, here's a really great camera that I have, and here's a stock picture of a camera. But you can't use it and be like, here's a great picture I took of this camera. It's different, the stock terms of service and all that fun stuff. However, there is a website out there, and it's called iWix, W-I-X, and they provide template images with the photography and all the different website templates they have. And those images are actually legally able to be used as your own work. Is it absolutely morally wrong? Yes. But so I will sometimes list those when I list them out, but I'll make sure to say, this is a stock template and they're legally allowed to use this. But what they're not legally allowed to do per Wix is take those images and use them on their Facebook, which often they do.
Yeah.
I don't out those people unless they're using other stolen works. And 9 times out of 10, the people that are already using the Wix template images to show their work, and not like an accidental, like, oh, it's still the thumbnail print for some gallery and I didn't realize it and I didn't change it. It's like, here's my wedding gallery and these images are in it along with their other images. Those people I will out. So I do kind of check and make sure that it's not just stock images, because I don't know, there are stock images that do let you, or stock websites that do let you do that. So I try not to out anybody that is just using stock. I try to make sure that if there's at least one photographer I can link back to and talk to them and make sure that, they don't have permission to use this image and they haven't sold it to a stock agency, then I'll proceed with a post. But I try not to list stocks.
You mentioned Christopher Jones, and that name, yes. I didn't know him personally. He was in a group, Facebook group that I was in of Georgia photographers. And I remember seeing his work and thought, man, this stuff is fantastic. And he talked about the process and all this kind of stuff. And it was, when it came out, that when you broke the story, I was like, wow, I would have never guessed that. And just to see that deteriorate on his side and how that happened was just remarkable. Yeah, it's a crazy process. So to me, I guess his is the one I followed most closest. It seemed the wildest, but is it without, you say what you can say. I know that some may be more sensitive than others. With the ones that you can share, if there are any that you can't, how would is his one of the more wildest, or do you have something more wild than that? And wild, I mean, as like the results that happen after outing them.
Right. And Ryan, well, now he goes by Ryan Christoph, or I don't remember what his new name is, but he's got a new monkeyer, I would say. But yeah, Chris Jones was kind of a wild ride. It was the first one that I think I can recall outing that just went on this wild roller coaster that I was not expecting. Like, I had a few wild ones at that point. I think not long before him, I had outed a woman who took the original photo of the royal baby when I forget the younger one, was born, the boy, and she'd re-edited it and then put her watermark on it. And at that time, Princess Kate's dad was the one who took the image, and it was quite well known that that's who took it. But anyway, so she did that, and I posted her, and she kind of went a little off the rails. But she was in New Zealand, so it wasn't, she died off pretty quick too. So when this happened, it was a few months later. I still don't even know how to describe it. It was not too long before Christmas, and then he started posting like suicide type posts, and it was just, it was wild. I was not expecting it to go to that level. And then at the same time, he was running a contest where you could win a camera.
Yeah. Or 10 cameras, whatever it was.
Yeah, it kind of devolved into this weird thing where that kind of got hooked into it. She did eventually get her camera, but it took months, and it was a very wild ride. And it was sad because he was talented and he did have talent, and he could take pictures. So it was just bizarre to me that, he just didn't say, okay, I won't use those images anymore. I'll use my own. I'll go out and take my own sunset crazy pictures and move on with life. It was just bizarre to me that he kind of took it to that level. However, since Chris Jones, I think it was in January, I had outed a photographer in Florida.
January 2016?
No, 2015.
Okay.
15. So over
a year ago.
Yeah. Over a year ago, I outed a woman in Florida, and she was taking pictures that were actually taken. I don't think it wasn't just one photographer, but mostly one photographer who had shot for some like clothing catalog. She'd taken those images and reposted them as her own. And again, was with the story like, this is, I don't remember the girl's name, but this was this little girl and we had such a great day and blah, 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 blah. There's a whole story involved with these pictures. And the girl contacted me and said, basically, I've talked to her. She hasn't taken them down, blah, blah, blah. So I researched and I posted. And then within not too long after the post going up, it just immediately kind of devolved into, I'm still not even quite sure what to call it, but crazy town. It was, I still to this day don't believe she's ever admitted that those images she did not originally take. She still maintains that she took those images, even though those images were in a catalog. Like, it's not even like they can bicker about it being like, oh, I put it online first. It wasn't actually in a print catalog. It's not very hard to find who the original source was. And since this has gone on, because her and then her fiance or boyfriend, I'm not quite sure if they're engaged or not, they kind of rallied back, and they have, I mean, it's been going on for a year and a half, and they still take swipes at me every now and then. They really went hard for about 7 months and then dropped off. At one point, they were threatening to sue me. Their lawyer and my lawyer have had a few conversations. From my understanding, their lawyer is no longer representing them. I don't know for sure, but we have not heard from him in a few months. So,
is this the first time or is that as far as it's gone with the lawsuit? I'm sure people have said, I'm going to get my lawyer after you. Everybody seems to have a lawyer on retainer. Most people don't.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Most people don't.
But how they all do.
Is that as far as one's gone, as far as a lawsuit goes?
Yes. There was another woman before them that did get her lawyer involved and basically called a lawyer of mine and said, they blah, 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 blah. And it was just mostly, it was like, it's usually, and with her and with this, with the couple from last year, it's a friend of a friend who's a photographer and gets themselves involved. But that's as far as it's gone. I've never actually been served with papers. And I have consulted lawyers about what I do and what lines I can cross, what lines I can't cross, blah, blah, blah. A big misnomer with the thieves that I out is that I'm responsible somehow for the people that comment in the comments. And I'm not. That's actually like a covered legal thing. CNN's not legally held responsible when somebody goes on CNN's comments and goes off. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same thing for photo stealers. I'm not responsible for what other people are saying on the chat or in the comments. In
a case like this one, or in other cases where you let the original photographer finds out that someone has got their photos, what does the original photographer usually do? Say, Corey, you're doing a great job. Just keep at it. I'm going to sit back and watch you. Or do they ever get involved and say, holy crap, I understand you're using my photo for your screensaver, but you're using my photo for business in a commercial setting. I'm coming after you.
It kind of, it's gone both ways. Not, usually the original photographer is the one who comes to me, but often they're not the only original photographers. So I haven't been able to talk with every single person that's been stolen from. Yeah. So I get kind of both. I get I've asked them to take it down. They've refused. 9 times out of 10, it's been ignored. So then they send it to me. And then from there, sometimes the other original photographers get involved and say, holy crap, I had no idea this was going on. This is terrible. It's weird, but I mean, I've now had it happen to me a few times as well. And you feel violated, even though you haven't been, but you just kind of feel like that. And I think it's because, especially with weddings, it's, those are my clients. And people get, especially about babies.
Yeah.
I had one photographer who had stolen an image, and she killed the baby off. She posted on her little story, was like, rest in peace, this baby. I forget what her name was. Call her Heaven.
Wow.
And it was like this baby passed away from SIDS and blah, blah, blah. They killed off somebody's child that's still alive. There's some really weird things.
What is wrong with people?
Right. Why would you do
Just
that?
when you think people can never hit another low, you hear something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And it's not, I think there's only one that has been killed off, but there's all these, the fake stories really creep me out. And then you go and you read this lie about a couple, I think I had one that was reposted and they had this whole story about this couple. And I'm like, that's not even remotely who they are, what they are. So it's kind of, it feels like a violation. So you do get angry and you sometimes are like, hey, especially whenever they're acting up and saying, oh, I didn't steal these and they're mine. And and then as original photographer, you get even more mad because you're like, look here, I can prove it. Here's the raw files. Yeah. When I was stolen from, it just happened to be not the only time I've been stolen from, but one of the times This woman in Toronto was claiming that this image was hers, and she was very vehement. And she said that I stole from her, and she took it as a compliment. I had an actual, when I had taken this picture she stole, the news crew was at the place I was taking pictures that day because the place had been, somebody tried to blow up a bridge. So there's actually live footage of me taking that picture.
This one I have up right now?
Yes, that one right there. So not only was I able to prove with the raw image that I took this image, but there's video of me taking that image that was on TV. So, and I still hear from her because she still threatens me every now and then. She never did say that she didn't take the image. She still maintains, last I heard, that I stole it from her. So
has anybody, and there's some questions in chat, I'll bring them in just a second. Has anybody just come right out and said, yeah, you got me. I'm sorry. I did this. Would that end the pain really fast? Because I know, like you said with the chat, with the commenters, you have some loyal followers, some commenters that take their own approach with this. That
right.
you may or may not condone some of their actions. But would that stop their bleeding if they just came right out and said, you know what, I'm sorry, I did that, I'm just going to get rid of all of them and start over?
Yes, and 9 times out of 10, when somebody's outed and they say, I am so sorry, they apologize to the original photographers, they offer to make amends, whether it be an apology, if they offer to pay for the use of the image, or, whatever the original photographer and, the person who stole from them come to decide. I don't have any part of that at all. I've taken posts down when everybody's in agreement that, restitution has been made. Like I said, be apology, money, however they come to agreement that, they feel that the original photographer feels that the, offending person has really screwed up and apologizes. And usually it's taken down with the agreement that if they do it again, it'll go back up. And there's been quite a few posts that have been removed when they don't act up. But whenever they start going crazy, 9 times out of 10, the photographers that were stolen from aren't going to be so, yeah, let's fine. Let's take it down.
Well, the answer is another question I had later on was, have you ever taken a post down?
Oh, yeah.
And that, it's your post, and, we've put up some here, you detail stuff so well that it seems to me, if you're caught, first off, don't do this. Second off, if you're caught, just go ahead and admit it, get it over with, and head down the straight and narrow from then on, because you've already been caught with the goods. It's like the bank robber caught with the money in their hand. You can't say it's not mine. I mean, it's mine. I had this all along. Yeah, I don't understand that. So what was my question? Let me go back to what the questions out here before they roll off the screen. And this one is probably, there's a guy, Steve-O, out there. That sounds like a guy's name. So he asked.
So does Corey.
And he asked, and I'm sure you're not going to have a finite answer here. So maybe it's more of a general question. Oh, crap. Where is it? It just rolled off the screen for me. How many stolen photos does a imposter need in order to be featured? So, if you look at a site, you only find 1 or 2. What are you looking for? Is it what kind of quantity? I'm sure it's not like I need 7. It's some kind of.
There is no hard and fast rule. It's generally, like I said, my gut reaction when I go on to the website is if I'm feeling like you're being duped about their work by, if you go onto their Facebook page and, the header and the profile picture are not their images and enough pictures below aren't theirs that you're going to be duped about their work. Basically, if I go on as a client and I'm not seeing their work, then that's generally, and it could be 5 images, it could be 50. It just depends, how things are set up, but there's not a hard and fast rule. Generally though, if it's only a few images, I'll email the original photographer who reported it and say, hey, here's the thing. It's only a couple images. You can DMCA them. And I show, I give them all the links and resources on how to get the images removed. Or, if you want, I can email them and say, not naming names, but say, hey, you've been brought to my attention. you can either take the images down, or I will make, not really like a threat of I'll make a blog, but like, hey, you've been brought to my attention and it's only a few images, you should probably take them down, kind of thing. So it really just depends on each case. There's not a hard, fast rule. But I try not to out anybody that's like 1 or 2 images, just because it's a little excessive of a hammer.
What's really amazing about it, though, is you have a photographer that's taking their own pictures. Why wouldn't you want to put your own pictures up as opposed to stealing somebody else's?
And that's kind of just the bottom line, is like, ultimately you're hurting yourself, because
Right.
you're going to have people hire you based on those images that aren't yours. And how are you going to answer when your images at the result don't compare? Like,
Right.
you're either going to get a really nasty review, or, or people wanting their money back. Like, this doesn't end well. So I don't understand why people continue to do it.
Right.
And so many people.
Yeah, that's one of the things, of course, lots of things about this would bother me, but one would be I couldn't live up to the marketing that I just put out. I could not do that.
Right.
I think some photographers may feel that, hey, they look at the image and say, oh, I could do that. So I just haven't done it yet, but I could do that. And they put it up there, and then, but not if you're, especially if you're just starting out, maybe you don't understand what kind of talent and experience it takes to get to that point. So you're not going to be there day one. Maybe you will. Maybe you're born talented and you will be. But if you are, then why don't you already have that portfolio yourself?
Right.
For that. Yeah. I've lost my train of thought. Oh, I was going to say, we've talked about this a number of shows ago, and Tim remembered this. I've only, as far as I know, had a couple images stolen, and they're all, as far as I know, been local. I actually walked into Walmart one day and saw my print in the photo center, waiting for someone to go pick up. So I walked by and I saw my photo there. I was like, what the heck? Here it is
And
on
a launch
canvas.
photo, no less.
Yeah, here it is on canvas in the photo center.
Oh my God.
And like, how is my photo? I have not licensed it out into anybody. I have not allowed anybody to do this. It's just sitting there, printing. So it was at 11 o'clock at night. There was nobody in the photo center. So I waited, came back later. And when I came back, the photo was gone. And so I asked them in the photo center, hey, what happened to that photo that was here? And they said, oh, that was a great photo. Yeah, the person never came and picked it up. We threw it away. So I never was able to find out who did it. Now, it's a little bit different that they weren't, I mean, who knows? I don't know what they were going to ultimately do with it. They put it in their house. They're not using it for commercial purposes, so it's not quite the same thing. In my mind, and I'm not a lawyer, using images you didn't take or you didn't buy with the license to use that way in a commercial setting as an advertising or to represent your own work, which in representing your own work is advertising, is like the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, I've had people steal my images and use them on blogs or whatever without credit. And it just makes me roll my eyes and whatever. But when somebody steals it and says, this is my picture and, this is Sam and George and they're such a great couple. And you're like, wait, no, what? You get more mad. And I don't know why, but
yeah,
I think it's also because, especially whenever it's kind of local, because you're taking clients from me by using these images. Like there was a photographer locally who was using images. He was kind of sneaky about it. He was using them in a Dropbox. So there was a client that she happened to be meeting with a lot of people. And she was like, have you shot at my wedding venue? And he hadn't, but he told her he had. So, of course, the story is a little convoluted. I'm not quite sure what the real story is, but his story is that his second shooter put all these images together in a file, and they sent them to the bride, who then realized that they were all different people's, that she had been meeting with images, and then notified everybody originally. But I don't know how long he's been doing it. I don't know how many other photographers, but that was actually a bride who had inquired with me, who had met with me and wanted to book me. And he was trying to use my images to book that bride from me.
Wow.
So, when that happens, you get really angry because you're like, it's not just theoretical, it's somebody out in the internet universe. It's somebody down the street doing it.
Yeah.
And,
it's amazing how pervasive it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I would not have thought it would be this big.
And it doesn't seem to be slowing down. Doesn't seem to be slowing down.
No.
Do you do all this research yourself? Do you have anybody assist you?
No, it's just me.
Okay.
Mostly because if anything ever happens, like, the incident last
Yeah.
year, I only want to take the fall for it. This is my choice to put my neck on the line to do this. So, I have friends that I kind of bounce things off of. But as far as any of the research, the work, everything, the posting, that's all me.
And I know this isn't your business. You have another business, but I'm sure the hosting costs some money. I'm sure anytime you got to talk to a lawyer, they start charging money too. They like to. They're not usually cheap.
No,
Do you make enough money from the few ads? You don't have a lot. The few ads on the
no.
site to fund this.
I make about $30 a month from the ads on a good month. I
Right.
don't have a ton of ads because I know for myself when I go onto websites that are like ad, you get really annoyed. And I'm not doing this to make money. Last year I did do a GoFundMe when I was threatened to be sued. And I did get about $12,000. So that pretty much covered the lawyer and the multiple calls with their lawyer and, just other like little things that, have come up and hosting. It's done a little bit of hosting and, it's like, it was really nice. And I'm still completely gobsmacked that I got that much. I expected maybe $1,000. So there is a little bit of money there, but I don't really consider that income. It basically went to pay for
Sure.
the havoc that those two were raising. So.
I did not see that until I started researching for the show. I would have donated. I would have donated if I would have, seen that back when you were doing the GoFundMe. So I can't really speak for the other donators because I'm not a donator, but I'm going to, with that caveat, I'm going to say something, and that is, regardless of what outcome comes from that event or what you raise the money for, having a little bit of money to help you with other legal issues, I would, if I was a donor, I would feel comfortable with. It wasn't like you got $1 million or $100,000. You got a reasonable amount of money. Use that to whatever purposes you need for keeping up the site and continuing the fight, because while you have some fans and there's fans out there in chat right now, it is, probably you also have some people that aren't happy with you,
Right.
and some of those people will do have lawyers and may cost you a little bit of money. So I think keeping that money, whatever, if there was any left over to help you fund what you're doing, is a good thing.
Yeah, I try, I tried and it was funny because when that all went down, like somebody was like, "Oh, you're just going to go take a nice vacation." And I'm like, I had to make sure because I had vacation scheduled. And I'm like, now this is what I have scheduled out. Although there were people that were like, no, go buy a cocktail. Or, there are people who are like, I don't care what you use it for. I wanted to say thank you and they, use money to say thank you. So that was really nice. But I've been trying to be very cautious about that because it's kind of a big responsibility, when you get that much money and it's like, oh, but it's also in the same respect, like it didn't go far, unfortunately, like you said, with lawyers and hosting and, I'm trying to get everything, legal, just make sure everything's legal and had a lawyer go over the website and just stuff like that. It adds up. So,
Yeah.
But like I said, this isn't a venture that I took on going, oh, this is going to make me a lot of money. It's a passion project.
Now, I with someone who gets a lawyer, at least to go in through the legal process, have you had anybody who's gone above and beyond? Like, I know somebody has tried to get your Facebook page shut down. People have put out, who've bled over into your other business and put out bad reviews, maybe even trying to hire hackers or something like that to do something, which to me, that, now you're stepping outside the law. If you have a problem, there is an avenue you can go through with that. Hey, can you tell me anything about the people you don't have to name names if you don't want to, but some of the crazy things that have happened and how does that impact you? I wouldn't, either you get like, what is it called? You get, when you don't feel it anymore. What's that term? I'm losing it, Tim. Numb. Yeah. You get numb to it.
Numb to it.
You get numb to it. So tell me a little bit about those things.
So I've never really quietly run photo stealers from the very beginning, but I never quite was like running around with my flags going, this is what I do. But eventually, people who were outed, who get very angry, found out who I was. And over the years, there's been a dust up here and there. But last year, the couple that I've referenced that were in Florida that I had the major issue with, they did kind of, they hit my review section. Their friends did, suspected fake accounts. Somebody ran that was friends with them or them did. So I had a lot of nasty reviews. Like one of their friends said I never showed. And it wasn't just saying like, she runs Photo Stealers and she's terrible. It's, oh, we waited in the rain for hours and she never showed up, which I've never done. Mm-hmm. They then have gone on to, it seems like there might be a group of Facebook group or some sort of email group of people who've been outed and who hate me.
Wow.
So they seem to kind of feed off of each other. I'm not quite sure how to even phrase this without really just that. So they get together. Or maybe not, and it's just a coincidence, which I don't believe. But anyway, so there seems to be some collusion there where, there's a certain thief in the past who liked to write rip-off reports. Well, then I magically got one from the ones from last year, and then they've gone on to write a few more. And there's, one that says I never showed, and so on and so forth. Like the first couple were about me running Photo Stealers, but then it's gone on to be fake past clients. They went on The Knot. They went on Wedding Wire. They got the Photo Stealers Facebook page taken down.
On Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it got reinstated. And then Facebook, after a bunch of going back and forth with Facebook not only reinstated Photo Stealers, but they also took away all the bans they had given me. And I was getting banned off of Facebook for like just posting like blogged and putting a link. They somehow got into, I still don't know what the magic is behind Facebook. You can't really get a person. But,
No.
So I finally got a hold of somebody and they did end up undoing all of my bans and such. But for about 2 months, I wasn't able to be on Facebook because they magically manipulated it. So I would get banned for harassment when I would just post a link. So if they mess with Photo Stealers, Photo Stealers. And I know that I'm putting my business at risk by doing this. But the amazing thing is that the photography community really supported me and they came back and they gave my website, they went on Facebook and reviewed me and gave me 5 stars. And then Facebook ended up supporting me and taking down their reviews.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Yeah. So, they have done things, and I also have a page on my Facebook or my website. I may have taken it down because I wanted to reword it, but my clients are aware of what I do and that, and I do tell people often when I meet up with them, like every now and then you might bump against some sort of strange thing out there. And if you have any concerns, please contact me. And I'm happy to put you past contact with any of my clients who will happily tell you that, I've never known showed and I've never been late and I've never taken longer than a week with wedding images to return them and stuff like that they've claimed. So it's just part of the risk, but it's still worth the reward of getting some of these photographers, as I call them, off of the internet, or at least not stealing images anymore.
You mentioned a photo community. Has the photo community, as a maybe not as a whole, but do you feel the photo community is behind you in what you're doing?
For the most part, yes. It's been almost very surprising in the past year. Like I knew that I had fans. But especially after I outed Doug Gordon and Jasmine Starr, who are 2 pretty popular photographers for plagiarizing, I really kind of was, I knew I had fans, but it's polarizing. And especially those people who are very well liked by their fans, I wasn't quite sure what people thought about me. But whenever everybody rallied behind me last year, whenever I was dealing with all of this, it was very heartwarming to see how much support I have. So I'm
not sure I knew that. I remember the Jasmine thing. That was you who outed that? Mm-hmm. Wow. So did she ever contact you? Did she ever?
No, I've never heard directly from her or Doug regarding that whole mess. But yes, that was me.
Did she admit to the fact that she was doing that stuff?
She did somewhat. Long story short with that was originally it came out, it was tweets. Somebody had realized that her tweet sounded familiar, found original source. I believe I posted it on Facebook. I didn't make an actual blog post about it. And you would think if something like that happened, somebody would look at their body of work and be like, oh my gosh, make sure everything else of mine is on the straight and narrow. Unfortunately, she didn't. And somehow, I forget the whole story. If somebody emailed me and said basically like I had Googled how to light a wedding or something and came across how sometimes if you Google something, Google will highlight what you typed in exactly, and they'll put it, they'll highlight it in the search below. Well, it was an article and Jasmine's blog, and they were both like identical. So then they were like, well, this is odd. So they looked at both of them, and there was huge sections that were lifted. So they sent it to me, and I did some research. And unfortunately, there was quite a few blogs that Jasmine had unfortunately plagiarized. And so then I posted it, and it kind of went from there. But so she had been unfortunately she'd had one, and then she took down a bunch of blogs. So there may have been more that were not caught before she started deleting. But she did go on to her private Facebook group and say, I did it, I'm sorry. And I think that she ended up maybe doing an interview with F-Stoppers or someone, I'm not quite sure who, and kind of, I don't know if she ever really admitted it, but just said that she had made mistakes.
I think that, as a whole, people are willing to forgive if you come out, say, look, I'm sorry I made a mistake. I'm going to take action to correct this. Often it's you who did it. So the action is going to be of yourself. Take action to correct this. And then if you follow that and don't just go right back to what you were doing, I think people on the whole are willing to forgive. No matter, Jasmine has lots of fans, and I'm sure lots of them were upset with her when that came out. But as long as she admits, does some form of admittance, and then doesn't do it in the future and goes, and continues on, it'll die off, and her fans will forgive her and keep going. I think it's the ones that continually deny. And maybe it's that they're upset with the fact that they were called out. Some people, I worked for a guy who got caught stealing money, so a little bit different from this, but he got caught stealing money. And all of a sudden now he's sorry as he's facing, some prosecution. Right. And sometimes people are sorry they got caught, not sorry they of their actions. They only become sorry after they're caught, and they get mad at the person who's called them out, and go into this defensive process and just keep fighting back.
Right. And it's interesting, and Jasmine was outed not too long around the time that Doug Gordon was outed, and Doug is kind of the opposite. She kind of just quietly just went about her way, whereas Doug got caught multiple times. He'd been caught a couple times with the blog, and then the first post came out, and then he did it again, and I've heard various stories, but he never really apologized. He never kind of had like, I'm so sorry thing. And unfortunately, he's taken a little bit more heat from the photography community for it. But that's because, like, as you said, people are a little more willing to forget somebody who's like, okay, I was caught, I messed up. I'm going to do it. But
I think one of your people is out in chat.
Hi.
Well, this is not one of your fans. This is the other way.
I know
there's lots of your fans out there, but there's maybe at least one that's not.
I'm sure.
And look, this is my show. I'm not going to ask questions like you're asking me to ask. I'll ask the questions I want to ask.
Oh, now I'm curious.
Not Mike, you're going to get thrown under the bus.
I don't, throw me under the bus. It's my show. I'll ask the questions I want to ask. If you have a question for Stacy, as we're coming up on the end of the time, this is going by so fast.
I have a question for Stacy.
I'm sorry, not Stacy.
That was a slip.
Question for Corey. Yeah, Stacy's name was out there several times.
I'm sure.
Question for Corey before we wrap this up. Put it out there. Not like the ones that guest 678 was asking. Okay, so as we wrap, and I don't know who the 678 is. People may be able to figure out there. I don't know. I'm just going to call them the person by the name on the thing. Guest 678. As we start wrapping this up, where do you've been at this 7 years. There's no shortage of these things continue to happen. Do you see this, no end in sight? You're going to keep doing this, or it seems like a lot of work.
It is and it isn't. I don't have any kids, so I think it's a little bit different for me, and my husband's work schedule is a little crazy. So, I have a little bit more time to do it than most do. And it's kind of something, I comes in waves. I work on it more in the off season. But unfortunately, a lot of times when people are picking it up, it's because, well, they're advertising for weddings during wedding season or whatever. But I don't see an end until I get bored with it, honestly. Or, and probably at that point, there may be somebody out there who's like, hey, I'll take over. Who knows?
Yeah, very good. What about your photography business? Where would you like to have that head?
As long as it keeps going how it goes, I'm perfectly happy. This is going to be my best year ever.
Awesome.
So I'm quite excited. And it's definitely in thanks to the way the photography community helped rally with me last year. So huge thanks to them.
Very good. All right, so we're close to the hour. I got some wrap up stuff to do after in just a second, but before we do that, we have a new segment. Oh wait, crap!
Oh.
I had somebody ask questions before the show. Gina Perry had two questions that she wanted me to ask you. So we may have already covered these, but I'll go ahead and read them just in case.
Okay.
Okay, we answered the question, which one of her questions we did answer this, Gina. I'd like to know which story was the most spectacular. So we kind of talked about that.
Though, I have to say the most spectacular one may definitely be, so there was a guy I outed, and I forget where he was. It may have been Arizona. And in the end, he was a Republican, and he blamed the Democratic Party for taking him for the whole thing. Like, it was kind of it was almost as good as Aliens. Like, and he like took down his whole website and put this whole thing up saying, like, how it's the Democrats and the president and everything else that set him up and framed him. It was pretty like I said, that was probably most spectacular just because it was just so off in outer space that I was not expecting that one to come at all.
There was a time back in my much younger days that I was heavily into politics, and I will tell you, I'm not going to tell you which side I was on, but I will tell you that both sides, that the people that are really involved are absolutely crazy.
Yes, I agree.
They are absolutely crazy. So if you're a Republican and you love Republicans, the guys and gals who are really close in it, crazy. If you're a Democrat and you really love the Democrats, the people that are really involved in it, crazy.
Yeah.
Those people are, I could not hang out with
impressive.
them. I could not hang out with them.
No.
Okay, so Gina's second question is there a way you can secure your images better than just putting watermarks on it? So if you're a photographer that's getting your photos stolen, do you have what should you be doing?
Well, the first thing you should be doing is registering your copyright. You can go on, you can electronically do it. You can do it in a big batch, and I forget the price because they recently changed it, but it's fairly reasonable. Take all of your work that you're publishing. If you don't want to get too involved with it, just do the ones that you're blogging and putting on your website. But take them and register your copyright. That protects you so that if somebody does steal your image, and it's not just like you're maybe not going to be able to sell the little mom who's stole your images and started a business and maybe made $50. You might not be able to sue her, but there's so many cases, and I don't post them because that's not my thing. There's so many cases of businesses stealing. I can't even tell you how many artists have stolen images for their cover work or for the images for music. I can't tell you. I've had probably 5 or 6 at least, and they were big names that people have emailed me and said, "Hey, such and such artist stole my image. What do I do?" And I'm like, "There's a lawyer in California that I recommend to people," and I'm like, that alone is going to give you, not only you do get, regardless if you have registered your copyright, you still are entitled to a settlement. But if you register your copyright, you're able to get an additional amount. So register your copyright. You're only protecting yourself. It costs you, I think, around $100 for a huge batch. And if, Sony or Nikon, I mean, a lot of places have stolen images. Somebody steals your image, then you're able to, recoup your legal costs, and you're able to recoup, there's other things that you can kind of take into that. Also, when you're blogging, there's so many times I go onto people's website, I'm like, well, no wonder this was stolen. It's like this huge, massive 2,000 pixel image that, super high quality. And yeah, you want your best quality out there, but you want to make sure it's like saved for web, not only so that people can easily view it, but also because people are stealing it and, it's wallpaper size. So they're able to do whatever they want with it, like print a canvas, and nobody knows because it's not like it's obviously pixelated. So make sure you're watching like the quality that you're putting out there. Watermarks can be taken off. There's also a new website out there I think it's called Pixie, Pixsy, I believe. They kind of like slurp your images, and then they'll notify you when images are used, and it's pretty slick. It's a free service, and then you can pay, and you can use their legal service if they find a corporation or somebody stolen it. But it's an interesting way. It's a neat way to be able to keep track of what images are out there and where.
Yeah, I've used TinEye and Google Search, but you got to do them one at a time, don't you?
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
well,
that's painful.
Also, there's like a little application thing that you can do, extension for Google Chrome, that will like turn in your stuff to little things that you can just click on each image rather than having to right click on each image. But still, it's tedious. So the Pixie thing kind of is nice that it just kind of takes all of your images, and you can just go through every now and then and see what images are being used where.
Okay. All right. So before we head off and I do the closing, we have a little segment that we're doing. We've done it the last two people, I think, Tim, and we've had a good feedback on this. Even Gina Perry was one of the ones that recommended we keep doing this, and that is, what is in your bag? Okay. So a camera bag. So photographers love to see what's in other photographers' camera bag. So if you don't mind sharing your bag, I'm going to see if I can get you. Let's get you, just you. Where's that shot?
I'm sorry, people.
There we go. Okay.
All right. So this is my workhorse.
Nikon.
I have a Nikon D4. My 24-70 is. I'm a zoom shooter. I'm not a prime shooter. My camera.
Which one do you use?
It's like a CSLR. It's not anything super fancy. I got it on Amazon. It's like $20 or $30, but it's got this little gap. It's so comfortable. I'm a crossbody shooter.
Okay.
I was in a car accident when I was a kid, and my head went through a windshield, so my neck's not the strongest. So I don't like putting heavy things around my neck. So that's my my workhorse. Where did I? Oh, there it is. I have two. I'm not only showing one. I have two of my backup cameras with me at all time, which is my D700. This year I'm probably going to be upgrading. I'm not sure if I'm going to go to the D5 or if I'm going to go to the D750. I'm not sure if that's the new one that came out.
750, yeah, 750.
Yeah, so
I saw something on the D5 where they were shooting at 102,000 ISO, and it's noisy, but it still looks.
million. Yeah.
Well, I saw one where it went
yeah.
to 3 million, but and that was really that was really unusable. But 102,000, while it was noisy, and maybe it wouldn't be for a wedding photo, but it still was usable.
Well, it would be usable though if you're for like end of the night, reception shots that you're like, well, the light's really crappy. The DJ's turned everything black, but you can still at least get something. So, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm not quite sure which way I'm going to go yet, but my D700s are awesome. I love them. And
that's what I shoot with, a D700.
It's not like I need to upgrade, but shutter life and all that fun stuff. But I have two of those in my bag at all time. And then everything's kind of around me because I just got back from a destination wedding, so I haven't really shot since then. I have two 70 to 200s in my bag. I don't have two of my 24 to 70s just because I have somewhere. I don't know if I have it actually. I have the 50 and I have the 24 prime, and I think a 35 prime. So
can you show me that lens? Did you not have a lens cap on it?
No.
Oh my gosh.
It was in my bag. I know.
In the bag. Exactly.
Well, I guess that's the difference between somebody, a working person who's hey, I'm getting the job done versus me who's not doing it for a living, I understand.
Well, and it's in my shoot sack, which is what I carry with me during the day of. So it's not like it's in like a normal bag. It's in the shoot sack, which is like all neoprene and fun stuff. So I have that. See if what other lenses I've got in my little bag. Yeah, my little my 50 without a lens cap or the rear cap actually.
Oh wow!
So I take all the rear caps off when I'm shooting. I know, but they're not dusty.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's my 50. I don't use it a lot. Like I said, I'm not a prime shooter, but I do like it for getting ready.
Is that that's a 50-1.8?
1.4.
1.4. Nice.
Yeah. So. I actually have the older version of this, and I hated it with passion. Like when my second shooter really liked it, and one day I was like, "Hey, do you want that lens instead of payment?" She's like, "Yay!" And I'm like, "Good," because I hated it. But this one I actually like. I like the new one.
Vic out in chat says lens caps are for wimps.
I like you. Yeah. See, I have caps. I just don't use them all
And
the
just
time.
not on the lens.
Yeah, not on the lens. So I also have the Sigma 50, which I completely freaking hate. But it's a backup. It is what it is. I hear the art is really nice. It just was really slow. I never was a fan of it, but I kept it because, again, I like to have backups of backups of backups. So it's in my bag because. And I have a teleconverter. Very, very rarely will use this at a wedding. Again, no cap. But I have one.
Now that looks, I know I have the teleconverter 1.4. That looks like the bigger one though, the 2X.
It's the 20E 2X, yes.
Yeah.
I mostly use it when in my downtime, I like to go to Maine and shoot lighthouses. That's when I've used this mostly.
Okay.
But I have used it a couple times at churches where you're stuck at the very back of the aisle and you're not allowed to move, or the balcony. And to get a little bit of extra grab in those churches, there's one in Cleveland that is very, very long aisle and you can't move and blah, blah, blah. So it comes in handy. I also have, I don't have everything over here with me, but I have about 4 of the SB900s for flash. I just use the regular flash modifier. I don't have any of the crazy Fong things.
Yeah.
It's just how I prefer to light. Everybody has their own method of madness, but I have about 4 of these because I tend to drop them. I do have one of the new 910s, but I didn't realize it when I bought it on eBay. Apparently it's gray market.
Oh boy.
So yeah, you get it and you're like, oh, okay, but whatever. It is what it is. It's an extra flash. But they get the job done. And I use the little, what is this? The SD9. I have the little SD9 battery pack, and that's what I keep on me for most of the reception to get a little bit more life out of the battery of the flashes. I love them. I know there's other methods of the Qualcomms and all that stuff, but I like this sucker.
I have something like that as well for my external flash, and I love it.
It's so light. It's so easy. I don't have to recharge it. It's AA batteries. I love it.
Right.
Does that help with the recycle time too?
Oh God,
Absolutely, yeah.
I can flash. Especially with family portraits, I'm very, very fast. I try not to make that the most painful part of the day because it is for most people. So I try to run through that really quickly, and that helps because I can take 3 pictures at once, bam, 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 done. And it's nice. No blinking, no angry child, no grandma grinning, cranky, and all that fun stuff. This is my other little fun thing I have.
What is
I don't
that?
even know what it's called. It's a little video light, and I won't blame
LED lights, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little LED. It has a little like diffuser, has little different color panels. It's like $30 on Amazon. While I will use it sometimes like for night portraits and such, what I mostly use this for is for detail shots with rings. And I don't know where it is. It's probably in another bag. I have a travel destination bag that I didn't grab. But I use the 105, the Nikon, and then I'll use this to give a little extra light to the diamonds and kind of help them pop. Sorry.
That's right.
I'm talking, so it came out of my ear. But so this thing is super awesome. I've never had to change the batteries. I've had it for about 3 years, but it can get really, really bright or dim. It helps if you need like a little focus pop before.
You say it can get bright dim, so you can dim it.
Yeah, there's a little wheel on the side
Okay.
here, and it dims.
That's awesome.
Right. It gets pretty bright.
Yeah.
I've used it a couple times just to even add like a little like hair light behind a couple when I'm doing some outdoor lighting at night. So this is probably one of my favorite things, and it's super cheap. So that's, I think, it as far as gear goes. I have a million batteries because I'm always worried that the batteries are going to die, and a million flash, camera. I have the CF cards, and I also have these dang QXD cards because I have the D4, and you have to have a million of these, and they're stupid expensive, and I lose them because they're tiny. But as far as other little fun things, I always have the hand sanitizer because you can't wash your hands during the wedding day. You can't go to the bathroom, so you much less hand lotion because, again, I don't know why my hands get really dry when I'm shooting. But
I think it's also as we get older.
this is the tip, and this is probably going to be a little awkward because I'm talking to 2 guys, but this is the tip even for men.
Okay.
Have a tampon or 2 with you, gentlemen.
What in the
Shooters.
world am I going to do with
Yeah,
that?
now I have to hear this tip.
Yes.
Because do you know how many bridesmaids I have made best friends for life by having one of these with me?
Oh,
You don't think they would think it's creepy if I just pulled one out and said, "Oh, I
as a
have an
guy."
extra,"
You're a photographer. You should be prepared.
and had the
And-
camera on you, so nobody saw my graphic there.
I've told guys, and a few of my guy friend photographers have started doing it, and they said, "Oh my god!" Like it's one of those things where I like to be prepared. I usually do have an emergency kit with me the day of the wedding, as far as like little things with like a sewing kit or whatever. But that by far has been mothers, bridesmaids, random people in the restroom. I have got clients from giving somebody a tampon in the bathroom by being photographed.
Right.
I could see that. I could see that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you're a normal event. That's the last thing you want to screw up your day.
Right. I think most of us guys would never even think about that. But if
you would.
Huh? What's that?
If you have sisters, though, that's always what I tell guys.
Or a wife or something like that. Yeah.
My wife always has me carry them. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's a good point. Yeah.
So, and, I also have like crazy tripods and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I would say the tampon is one of my most used items in my bags by everybody.
Well, Laura says, who doesn't have a tampon in their bag? Well, I don't.
Yeah,
now.
I like the disposable baby diapers are great for mopping up sweat.
Hey, that's a good one too.
I will have to explain to my wife why I want them if I say, hey, can you get me some tampons so I can put it in my bag?
Really? Excuse me? Yeah, I can see you saying
but
that.
But then she would probably be like, oh, that's really
After you explain it, yeah, she'd be like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, because I have so much room in my bag and, throw a couple in and make everybody's day. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, and Kimba says they also help with bloody noses. Yeah.
Yes. I have not had to do that, but, there are groomsmen that get pretty out.
I will share a story in the post show about something related to what Kimba just said. And Laura says, put one in the bag, Mike. All right. We'll do that. Maybe.
Mike, remember, you don't do too many weddings, so.
I don't do any weddings, but there's other cases.
Yes.
Yeah. But for weddings, if I just shot babies, it would be a little awkward, but hey, I'm only here for an hour, but do you need this? But yeah, with weddings, and especially everybody carries tiny purses. It's not something that fits.
Right. That's not something.
Oh yeah. That's another good point. You're not carrying your big bag, most likely.
No.
Well, very good. Thank you for sharing that with us. That was I've always loved seeing what people have in their bags. And especially if Nikon, all the Nikon gear, Tim.
Yeah, no. Sony.
All right.
I'm an old Minolta shooter that went to Sony.
For as we head into closing, so if you came in late, we do record this show. It will be the unedited version will be out on YouTube right after this. But the edited version will be a few days. Then it'll be out on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And let me pull that up so I can tell you. If you want the video of this, it'll be on iTunes, YouTube, and Vimeo. The audio version is on iTunes, of course, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podomatic, Podbean, and whenever Google Play Music releases it, it's already there. It's just waiting for them to release it. So there's multiple places you can get the show if you weren't able to watch all of it live. The best way to get it is to subscribe, either to our YouTube page or iTunes. Those are some of the easier ways. That way you get it as soon as I release it. If you, let's see, what's it going to say? Oh, we also have a Facebook page, a Facebook group, facebook.com/group/JPEG2RAW, where we have a monthly photo contest. There's no prizes other than you get your photo at the top of the page. Tim and I do this for free. We don't do this for money. So there's no cash prizes during the monthly contest, but it's just a fun event to be involved in. And you do get your photo at the top of the Facebook group. Mm-hmm. If you look around the site, we do have a few ads, like our Amazon affiliate ad. We use those funds not to run the show, but to do giveaways and contests and that kind of stuff. The annual photo contest, we use the funds from this for that and for some of the other giveaways we do. That is, if you're going to go to Amazon and buy anything from Amazon, it doesn't have to be photography related, use our link. It's on our website, or just type in jpeg2raw.com/Amazon whenever you're going to go to Amazon. We also have the affiliate with Topaz Labs. If you're going to buy their plugins or their program, which now Nick is offering their stuff for free, so maybe I don't know how many people will buy it. But if you're going to buy Topaz Labs, use our link, jpeg2raw.com/Topaz Labs. And I think that's it. Yeah, anything I'm forgetting, Tim?
Nope.
All right. So until next show, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.